Sometimes you just need a box of Triscuits to get through the day. No? Just me?
Yeah, just you. Dear insurance company, there's no need to butter me up with sultry saxophone hold music. I know you're going to ream me on my deductible.
Oh, hold music has got to be one of those things we're all going to talk about in 20 years to the youngins, like steam engines or dial-up internet.
Truth. That feeling when you can't figure out Wordle, but you also can't start your day without finishing it. So you just sit there while the world turns.
Heather, you're my mother. Have such a good day. Hello world, welcome back to Have Such a Good Day.
The show that wants you to have just that.
Yeah, it does, Heather.
Wants you to have it and do it.
You know, we're not the bosses of you, okay? All right, let's just say that right now. But we want this for you.
We want the best for you. We want all of the best days possible.
Indeed.
And very few of the bad days.
And we know that life is absurd. That's
life
why we try to unpack the absurdity of life. And hopefully, in the process, you are entertained.
Exactly. Do you like how we deconstructed? The point of our show is cheap therapy that won't set you back.
Is that the point of our show, Heather? Have we devolved into that? Like, listen, y'all, it's cheap therapy, okay? Like it or leave it.
Hey, man, I'll take it. Honestly, it's like symbiotic therapy. We're giving ourselves therapy and blasting out this therapy session to you, and hopefully some of that rubs off.
Indeed. That is the point. I mean,
hello and welcome to Have Such a Good Day.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm Heather Frank.
I'm Sarah Lane. It's episode 205. And
That's
we're
like a
feeling
nice
pretty
number.
alive today.
Feeling pretty good about that. I'm feeling pretty good today too, Sarah. I know you and I were a little grumble this morning, but the sun came out. I finished Wordle. I finished all the games on the New York Times, actually, and I'm feeling pretty good.
Heather and I have, we've become those people who we send each other our Wordle scores first thing in the morning. You know, sometimes Heather's first, most of the time you're first, but every so often I get up early and, you know, I finish early.
And I'm like, whoa, girl.
Yeah, whoa, somebody's up early. And, you know, and now we're doing connections and we do
my new
Wordle,
favorite's connections.
And
I can't. I can't even tell you how much I love it. But it's hard. I mean, it's tricky. It's tricky, but I really like the way it makes my brain.
It's designed to stump.
think.
That would be the way I
would
would tell somebody. It's like, it's actually not that hard, but if you go too fast, you're going to get all mixed up.
You're basically, if you go too fast, they're setting it up so that there's a lot of things. There could be more connections that are really obvious. And so if you go fast, you're going to pick the most obvious connections when there's usually some like hidden agenda.
Yeah.
And hence connection, maybe it's called connections because it's like trying to like connect your synapses in your brain.
Well, you're making the connections between four words.
Yeah, exactly.
But
there's that too.
That's kind of what it is. But it's also, then you look at those four words amongst 16, I guess would be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
16
8,
total.
12, 16,
and so you're like, what are the connections?
And they consecutively get harder too. It's like the first one is like the obvious.
Yeah.
It's fun though. It's fun. And like, and there's, they use pop culture. They use kind of everything, you know, so it sort of tests your knowledge. You know, in so many ways.
Indeed. Well, we're glad to have you all along for
this wacky ride.
For the testing of the knowledge that we will be starting right now. Just kidding. This is just a fun
This isn't a pop quiz, Sarah.
It's not. We are not the Sunday puzzle, okay, everybody? We're just not that. It's funny. Just earlier, before we started the show, I finished recording Daily Tech News Show, DTNS. I was about to say have such a good day. I'm like, no, that's the show I'm on now. Sometimes I do too many
Sometimes you get
pods.
your pods
I know.
confused. I
I
get
really
it.
don't, but yeah, it's been a day. But one of the topics that we talked about on DTNS, and I encourage you if you're interested to listen to that show, was that there was a survey of older people who either were at risk of dementia or had already been experiencing dementia or were in some other form of dementia, right? So you're kind of
Okay.
talking about people who are by and large seniors and various online habits. Some of them very online, others not so much. And there was a correlation between being more online and less dementia. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. I know. Now I'm really simplifying this because I wasn't even going to talk about this today on the show, but I there's something to that. There's something to that. I remember, okay, this is like the weirdest memory ever. Well, it's not that weird, but just a random memory. My grandmother, my mother's mother, lived to be 99. She died like a week before her 100th birthday, which I'm still sad
Crazy.
about. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
just going to be this milestone, and she didn't quite
Yeah.
get there. But in her final years, let's call it 95 on, she wasn't really having a great time. You know,
Yeah.
she watched the San Francisco Giants baseball team on television.
So cute.
She had a newspaper. I don't really know how much she was paying attention to either of those things, but those were things. And my mom and I, when we would visit, because she was in a comfortable like retirement place, we would sit with her and say like, Nanny, where did you used to live? When you were 18. And she'd go, oh, I know this. And she would know. She would know all those
Wow.
answers.
Wow.
I remember what I was wearing when I married your grandfather, Sarah.
Wow. Sharp cookie.
Yeah, but like there were all sorts of short-term things that no longer
Yeah.
mattered to her. You could say like, "Oh, you ate breakfast 5 minutes ago." And she'd say, "No, I didn't. No, I haven't eaten. Nobody's feeding me."
That's so
Kind of
interesting.
it's dementia stuff. Listen,
Yeah.
it's going to happen to a lot of people at various times. She just happened to be pretty old before it
Yeah.
happened to her. And I don't think we ever put like a computer in front of her. I think she would have just said, no, I won't do it. I don't know what that is. I won't do it. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I love the idea that somebody who's older and maybe, I don't know, feels a little cut off from society in general, can have, some better, I don't know, brain activity, for lack of a better term, going forward. Again, mileage is going to vary, but yeah, I felt like it was an uplifting article that I read.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. I mean, because that's kind of what we need more and more today is more uplifting news and articles. Yeah. Forward those along, Sarah, when you come across
I
them.
will. I'll put it in our Discord.
Okay. Cool. I would imagine though, statistically, I would say there's probably more disheartening articles out there than there are heartening, uplifting.
Well, okay. So speaking of, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus because I don't even know how old anybody lives where I'm staying right now. But there is a guy across the street where, as I was driving home from the gym, I guess it was yesterday, maybe a couple days ago. I don't know how the days blend together.
Oh, they do.
What's my
Indeed.
name? I don't even know. But as and this is like it's a cul-de-sac, right? So like if you drive down the street, like everyone kind of like they know who you are. You're obviously like going to park in your own garage. You're not
Yeah.
just like cruising through. So I'm always rounding the corner at a slow speed, and the neighbor is like doing like bike donuts in the middle of the street, and so I'm kind of like, waving, like, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, you got a new bike. He goes, it's an e-bike. Have you heard about these? You don't even have to pedal all that hard anymore. And I was like,
God.
oh, Kent, that's his name, Kent. I was like, yeah, I have. That's so cool. Like, this is like, I mean, listen, this particular area, excuse me, that I'm in is quite flat. So I'm like, yeah, like, are you gonna like, I don't know, like go up a steep hill or something? And he's like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I just think it's like really cool that I don't have to pedal.
Wow. Why have a bike? I mean, I guess it's like, yeah, you feel the wind in your hair.
because
Wouldn't
people
that be like a
because
moped
people
or
love that.
something?
Well, it's like a moped light. It's
It
not a
is kind of,
moped.
right? It has a motor, but it has a motor.
Well, yeah, or a battery.
Okay.
Some there is a forward trajectory that you can get, if you like turn on that button on various e-bikes, and they're not all the same. And it's actually funny because like there's all this like potential, legislation about like, well, who can have an e-bike?
Yeah.
Like a 6-year-old
And where do
probably
they
shouldn't
ride it on
have
the
something
road?
that's,
Yeah.
like, unless they're well, first of all, they shouldn't have that. But like if they
Mhm.
do, you can't just, not have a license. And anyway,
Mhm.
a lot of people are trying to figure out how to make this safer for everybody because it's becoming more and more prominent. But I loved him just being like, look at this thing. I'm not even trying.
Sarah, I'm really happy to know that you're making friends in the
Oh,
neighborhood.
thanks, Heather.
Kent
Yeah.
sounds great, and
I'm pretty good at making friends.
yeah, and plus
Yeah.
it's nice to be neighborly. It kind of brightens your own day. Like I love kind of talking to randos. In fact, last night, one of our regular Airbnb people who comes here every year about this time, and he always texts me when he gets here, and it feels like I cannot believe a whole year went by when like the last time you texted me. And he had me over for, a glass of wine or coffee or something. Well, he's here again. It's been a year.
Mm.
And we was outside with Elijah. We go out during the sunset because the light's so beautiful, and we do little photo shoots and stuff. And we were outside, and we see Charles, and we're like, "Hey, Charles, how's it going?" And then he kind of walks back to our backyard, and we chatted with him for like 15 minutes, just like very light chit chat. But it's funny. It's like these people are they're like kind of buddies because I barely know them, but some of them have been coming here for 15, 20 years, knew my dad, and always want to connect when they come here. Like the once a year, the annual trip they make it up here. They like this guy Norm was here. He did a whole photo book of this whole area of Trinidad and where we live. He's a photographer from Palm Springs, and he always has us over for a glass of wine, and it's just this annual thing that we do, and it's lovely. I guess they're neighbors, temporary neighbors, but it's real nice. It's a real nice and warm thing to have. But yeah, Sarah, I was this morning, I think we were a little grumble together this morning. One of the things I was thinking about was, when I get up and I start my day, sometimes I'm just really groggy in the morning, and
Yeah.
it takes me a little while. I have my coffee, I do my Wordle, I do my connections, I do my New York Times crosswords. I kind of go through a slew of games just to kind of get
You're
my mind
yeah,
going.
you're winding up for the day.
I'm winding up, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's sort of I give myself a little bit of that time before I get on the computer, but I do check my email once I'm done with. I usually in the order of like the mini crossword, Wordle, some of those other games, and then I check my email. And like it's just I don't know. I kind of wanted to ask you because I would assume you've probably talked about this on DTNS at some point, but like
Hmm.
how the kind of the digital urging, like the we want your feedback becomes too much, the nagging reminders, and like this morning the first thing I got was this so and so's message is waiting. Like that's like a new thing where it's like it's a reminder of the reminder that
Oh
like
yeah. I
someone
mean,
sent me a
I just
message
like
on LinkedIn. It's
unsubscribe from
like
all that stuff. I can't deal with it.
same, and it's like it's just gotten worse and worse, and it's like yeah, I there's days when it just feels, look, I I will totally write some feedback. No problem, especially when I have something to say
Yeah.
about, like, I had a great customer service experience with American Express the other day. Did I write them a review? I did indeed. I want other people to know that they have great customer service. They pick up the phone. You're not in some like
Yeah, you were
robot
trying to
loop.
do the right thing.
Exactly. And I do it. I do it quite a bit. I wouldn't say that I do every single like feedback link that comes my way. I mean, who has time for that? I would never be able to get through the day. But yeah, it's just like it starts to get to a point where it's interesting how this kind of thing starts to kind of wear you down.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like this thing that we created, this internet, is just coming back to haunt us a little bit. Like, for example, this those emails that come into your inbox that somehow miss your spam folder. Something that supposedly you subscribe to called Tipsy Elves.
Oh,
Only
yeah,
hours
that's all a
remain to
bunch of
Labor Day
bullshit.
savings.
All that
And I'm
stuff.
like,
It's so dumb. Like,
report and unsubscribe, but I never subscribed to it.
you can also see it though. Like, it's like, oh, I signed up for, um, something with the storage unit that I pay for, where like
Oh.
it's like like a auto monthly thing. I'm not talking about you,
Mhm.
but like just like for example, like I'm like, oh, let's do an auto. I don't want to deal with this every month. Just like take it out of my
Yeah.
account. And because of that, it's like now I'm on like all these other lists
Yeah.
that and like it's like so obvious that somehow it's connected to this dumb company that sold my email address to
Oh,
somebody else.
100%.
So I just
Yeah.
go unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe.
I know it's kind of satisfying. You're like, but it's funny when you're like, I never subscribed to some Tipsy Elves. What the heck is that?
I don't know,
Anyway,
Heather. Maybe you're a
that,
tipsy elf,
maybe I am. Maybe it's something that I want to
at
be in the
least
future.
around the
So,
holidays.
Sarah, speaking of the mountains we climb, Sarah Lane,
Mm,
yeah, the mountains. So it's funny how these, the more life experience I feel like you have, the more you can kind of understand this. But just these ups and downs of life, you're just like, you're up, you're down, you've figured something out, you've solved a problem, and then
yeah,
you're back down trying to figure out some other problem that you can't figure out, and it just kind of it's just a seesaw.
sure.
um so I, and years back when I kind of fell into running my dad's business, I fell into something that was not my comfort zone. In fact, I would say, I'm a producer, as most of you know. The business of my dad's business is just running this real estate stuff, isn't that far afield. That was the part of it that I didn't really mind not knowing, because I learned pretty quickly and I was kind of interested in it. So that isn't the part I'm talking about. I'm kind of talking about how he ran it, and he ran it via paper. And I've mentioned this on the show before, that everything was, he had a method for his madness, but it was a maddening way of doing things. I've cleaned it all up, I've organized everything, but I got really comfortable in his madness because I had to. Because when I took it on, I kind of had to figure out, well, how did he do it? I need to understand where he was coming from. And so I learned it all kind of in a backwards way because, like I said, he did paper, printed, snail mail, everything was filed in a filing cabinet. He was just older generation, and he never let anybody see the books, never had a bookkeeper. Like, everything was just totally like very private. And I have mentioned that I'm going on QuickBooks, and it's a process. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a process that just doesn't happen overnight. It's going to happen slowly and surely over another year or two. And that's a tough thing because I'm not very patient. I would like to know how to do it right now. But I'm kind of in that weird phase right now where um, I fell into something that wasn't my comfort zone because I went from being a pretty high tech person to going back to paper. Now I'm in a comfortable zone that is the paper way of running the business because I have forced myself to do it. And now I'm feeling like I'm going out of my comfort zone again to take this next leap. And I kind of think obviously this is exactly what I need right now. I need this new challenge and I need to get to this next like level
Yeah. And
so that I can
you're
pull
very
away.
good at like being like, okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole and
I'm pretty good.
yeah, like it's not like you
It might take some
won't be able
coaxing,
to
but
understand this.
no, I like a good education. I really, really, really like a new like set of tools to learn. But so there was one thing I did like learn about myself recently. It was a bit of an epiphany. Not like that, like amazing. So don't like be at the edge of your seats or anything. But I'm getting to my point here. So this whole once I get on QuickBooks, it'll be probably this time next year where I'm actually really functioning in it. I'll be able to get a bigger picture view of the business. And that way I can actually do some fun things, like instead of logging paperwork, I can actually make some bigger opportunities for ourselves. And it was like, I was kind of grumble for the last 2 weeks, like, what am I doing with this business? This is just getting so tedious. And then today I had a meeting where I'm like, just had this like, oh, I can kind of see over the mountain that things are going to get better and I'm going to get to this other level to be able to not be mired in all this paperwork. Anyway, so that was one
I
epiphany.
feel like you're like somebody should hire you like as like the AI spokesperson.
I know.
Just being
This
like,
is so true.
I was drowning in paperwork. I could not see over the mountain.
I mean, it's so silly too, because I do come from a very high tech world. I mean, Sarah,
Of
you've worked with me
course.
most of my
Yeah,
career.
yeah,
And the thing is, I think part of it is that I used to get hired at these production companies that didn't have production studios. They were a business like magazines or some other media, and they needed someone to come in and like whip it into shape. And like, I think I'm good at that. I think that's actually one of my skills. But what I wanted to mention is what I had an epiphany about was ever since I've been home, I have been trying to whip things into shape. I've been trying to catch up and there's a lot of catching up to do.
yeah. Mm.
And I've been trying to like whip the yard into shape because like I've told you, we have 9 acres. We live on a park. There's a big house. There's a bunch of other houses. They were built in different years. They all have their quirks. And I feel like I'm struggling a lot with how large and untenable the whole thing is. I'm never, ever, ever going to feel like everything is buttoned up. And I think it's hard for me. And I realized because I'm a pretty organized person, the first thing I did was organize my dad's office. I can't really work and move forward until things are organized. And I look at the yard or I look at the house or I look at the flaws and it's like I can't, it kind of stops me in my tracks. And like I might be better off in like a small house on a small lot, where I can actually do the weeding myself.
Girl, I get
Um,
it. I mean, not
anyway,
that I've ever been like, give me the smallest house possible, but
yeah, but you get it.
where I
It's a
lived
feeling.
before, before my kind of, I don't know, whatever I'm doing now, was a really small house. And
Mhm.
it was frustrating, but it was also easy to manage. It
Yes,
was like
exactly.
everything has a place. If it's not
Yeah.
in its place, the house is a mess. It's easy to like just put everything in its place. And now it looks
And then you feel
nice.
done. You feel
And then
done
you're
for the day.
done.
You get your house
Exactly.
cleaned.
Yeah,
But I
like it's
never
like
feel that way.
there weren't like multiple, bathrooms to clean and, that sort
Mhm.
of stuff. And listen, you could have all sorts of different reasons to need that. Big
Mhm.
family or, whatever, no judgment. But I remember kind of feeling like this is it's probably just my mind telling me that I like this because this is
Mhm.
where I am, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to be happy. But I kind of miss that. I miss that, like,
Yeah.
I've got a little space and I'm going to make it
Mhm.
mine and I'm going to make it
Yeah.
nice. And it's
I
not that
totally do
hard.
too. Yeah. It was like my little bungalow in Echo Park down in LA. It was
Loved
like
that
I kind
house.
of
So
I
cute.
loved it too, and it was very small. It was actually challengingly small, but I kinda liked it. It made me feel like there was a security, and I think the fact that everything is there's so much to contain here, and I can't possibly contain it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just an interesting epiphany about myself
Hmm.
because some
Mm-hmm.
people just won't care, like they won't be affected by it. But knowing that about myself, I think I can proceed with caution and just be like, this is something I know about myself. And when I get overwhelmed, I just have to remind myself that you're never going to make it perfect and it's okay. Nothing's perfect. Um, and yeah, so my point is, we climb these mountains,
Yeah.
Sarah,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and we learn about ourselves as we go through this life. And I'm continuing this education to hopefully, I don't know, maybe I'm giving y'all out there some
Something to
food for
think
thought.
about.
Let us know. Let us
Yeah.
know if we are or if we aren't. Or if you knew this already, email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Indeed. Feedback is good. We appreciate it. Okay, so
We
speaking
do.
of lifestyle, a little bit.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
Heather, I think you and I are both sort of outliers of this because when we have had Amazon deliveries, over the last several years, we've both been in the woods. So it's
Yeah.
not like, I mean, you're like lucky if it even gets to your house.
I used it a lot in LA. When I was in the city, I used it a lot.
Yeah,
And when I visit cities, I use it a lot. But
sure.
yeah, it doesn't really exist, really. I mean, it exists up here, but I don't use it.
Well, so one of the things that crossed my desk was Amazon now charging $2 per delivery if you get in garage deliveries, which means that,
What
the
does that mean?
Amazon, there's an agreement between you and Amazon that they're going
Hmm.
to put stuff in your garage to make it safer,
Uh-huh.
whether you're home or not, kind of thing. So that goes above and beyond, like, oh, I have a gate code, that sort of thing, which
Hmm.
also might be the case. But this used to be part of, like, oh, if you pay for Amazon Prime, you're good to go. And now this is $2 unless you use one of the Amazon specific days.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like where they
Yeah,
say,
I
"Oh,
do.
you want the toilet paper like tomorrow?" Or like it would be nice if you like chose next Wednesday and then you would have fewer boxes and you go like, "Okay, next
Yes.
Wednesday."
Help a brother
Yeah,
out or a
exactly.
sister.
Exactly. So this is not the end of the world. I actually don't know. I know a few people who do use the garage option because they're in places where they need, stuff needs to be delivered regularly. They're not always there and they feel like things will be stolen. That's sort of the
Hmm.
underlying thing here is like, do you want your shit to be stolen or not? So this is not the end of the world, but something where people are like, huh, interesting. So
Hmm.
Prime, it used to be, under $100 a month. Now it's like what, 129? I don't even remember. And
It auto pays, so I don't even know how much I'm spending.
exactly. Yeah, the last time like it got taken out of my account, I was like, "Oh no, I've been hacked." Oh, whoops. Yeah, no, just my annual Prime. Yeah, yeah.
I think it says something, it's like an odd word.
They don't make it obvious. Yeah, it's a little weird. But but there's probably a way for us to not go through that again next year. But or later
Yes.
this year. But anyway, yeah, like this is not, I don't know. I guess I was thinking about this in the sense of, you talk about streaming services. Okay, let's
Hmm.
say you pay for Netflix and it goes up a couple bucks a month. And you
Hmm.
go, well, I mean, okay, it's not the end of the world, but like, that's not what I wanted to pay per month, you know?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
who are you to tell me what to do with that extra money? And I really do, I feel for anybody who kind of gets gouged in this way where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the end of the world. Like we always go like, it's less than a cup of coffee.
Hmm.
But people have budgets. And
And coffee's like $5 now.
well,
It's like,
exactly, which is why it's less. But
yeah.
like, it's okay to say, like, no, I'm paying this much and
Hmm.
this is what I can do. And
Hmm.
anything else is kind of, beyond my means or something
Hmm.
that I have to, I think I have to think seriously about,
Yep.
continuing with. And I think that's, it's, I don't know. I would love to know if anybody has dealt with this specific Amazon thing. This is like news 20 minutes before we started the show. So maybe some of you aren't affected yet. But yeah, it all kind of comes down to, especially if you, I mean, I am one of these people. I pay like a small amount of things to a
Mhm.
lot of entities each month.
Totally. Me too. I have to,
Collectively,
like, write them down separately, like,
yeah.
so that I remember.
Collectively, you look at the number and you go, "Do you have to do this?"
Yeah.
I could just
Yeah.
say no to everything and save a lot of money, but it is also things I care about. So,
This is like an ongoing conversation because
yeah.
I just canceled Max. I did it, everybody. Woo woo.
Whoop.
We'll see how long that lasts. And then I actually added Hulu. It always ends up like that. I'm like, I cancel one thing, but then I'm like, oh, there's some shows over there I want to watch.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with all of these subscriptions for me is, I have Spotify. I have a lot of things that I don't use every day. Like I'm not listening to music every single day. That's not true. I'm listening to music every single day, but in my car on Sirius, which I also pay for, Sirius satellite radio, and then on our silly little CD player that turns on every time we turn on our stove in the kitchen. So I do listen to music every day, but not Spotify. But I want my Spotify account because it feels weird not to have it, and you just become this. It's like there's times that maybe I won't even plug into my Spotify, maybe once or twice a month, and then I'm like, is that worth paying? Like you're paying it just to be on it, to have the assurity to be able to listen to it at the drop of a hat. um but yeah, interesting stuff. I had to spend a lot of time sleuthing some bills. How you're looking through your credit card statement. And this was from my trip. So I finally just sort of reconciled the bills from my big European vacation this summer,
Hmm.
because we did this thing called Splitter. And it splits out. It's an app and it splits out costs so that you don't have to like use three credit cards every time you go to dinner. Someone just covers it and then you split it through this app. So we did that. It was actually really, really convenient. But what kind of sucked about it was that, at the time when you're buying those croissants, like maybe you remember to put it in the app right then and there or take a picture of the receipt. But most of the time you don't. And then it kind of piles up. You keep some receipts. And then in the end, I just printed my credit card statements. Let me tell you how hard some of that was to decipher. I was like Googling, I was on like the Paris map, like Google Map, like, what is that? That was what day? I have never heard of that in my life. Like, what the heck? And it was actually kind of funny, because like getting to the bottom of some of these bills, I was like, what did I spend? What? And then it'll say like shopping, groceries, food, restaurant. Like it does have it in like some general categories. But that was oh man, was I happy to get that done. But I wanted to also mention before we wrap up this here show that I've just been thinking a lot more and more about email signatures. And we mentioned this in a recent episode.
I'm sorry, Heather. Like, I just love how you were like, before we wrap up,
I'd really like to
email
get this out of my
signatures.
system
I've been
because
thinking
it's
about
been
this a
nagging.
lot. And I love
I
this.
have.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Okay, so because I think really in general, like maybe an email signature can say a lot about a person. So it made me think like, well, okay, what does it mean then that I've really not jumped on that bandwagon? Like even in the professional world, not that I'm not in a professional world, but when I was working for a company day to day, nine to five or whatever, I didn't really. I remember a boss at the time at a TV studio did best. And this is a long time ago. This is like early first chapter LA, Sarah, where you and I both moved with Tech TV. One of my bosses in LA at the time,
2004.
Yeah, and it was best was not that common. Now it's like very commonplace. A lot of people use it, but I remember he used it and I was like, huh. I remember really trying to wrap my head around it and I couldn't use it myself. I just couldn't do it. And I don't know what it says about me. I'm not trying to judge or anything.
No, no, yeah, exactly. No judgment, just talking about cigs.
Yeah, I just like to like unpack this because I want to
Yeah,
know your thoughts ultimately. So basically, they've always seemed a little like uncool or just not me. Like I've marinated on some, or maybe I could do that. Not really me. Occasionally with a certain like particular formal email, I might choose best just to have one or sincerely. There's certain emails and correspondence that does beg for you to have something like regards or something like that.
sure.
But
Yeah.
I think that they like the other day, this was
Cordially.
cordially. I mean, there's all kinds. So I wanted to
Imagine
run through.
the next time I send a cordially email to you, Heather, just shoot me.
I will.
Okay.
Because I think most of the time it's like XOXO or something. Look, a little bit more casual. But in terms of, sort of professional emails, you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't use the XOXO.
No, no.
Yeah, and I would say that so I kind of want an email signature because I'm like, well, why haven't I had one all these years? Like, what is it about you and what turns you off? And so I think they do represent an opportunity. And sure, people have quotes. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. You can have a logo, you can have whatever it is.
Yeah, you
It
want to
could
call me at
be
my office, mobile, got
you can
the
make a joke,
numbers in
like
there.
I-
Yeah.
I've had a variety of like the iPhone ones where it's like sent from my iPhone, so,
Please forgive
be kind,
typos.
that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
had a variety. I had something that was written in French at one point.
I
Um,
remember
yeah,
that.
Envoyé de mon
Yeah,
iPhone or something
yeah.
like that.
I hadn't thought
Yeah, and,
about
and
that
it
in a
can
while.
kind of I think it does. It's either like a status thing or maybe that's what I didn't like about it, or it like reinforces like your personality. Um,
Mm.
and it could be kind of fun. So yeah, again, no judgment for anyone who has a particular signature. I was just wondering, what does it say about me that I don't have one? I would say the one that I usually do that I'm guilty of is thanks. And that's just like a thanks, comma, hard return Heather. Because most of the time you
Well,
are kind
why
of
why does
thanking
that make you
someone.
guilty?
No, no, not guilty, but it's just that I think
Heather's like, I
I
just
think
can't
that
stop thanking people.
I because I think thanks can become lose its genuineness.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think you have to be somewhat cautious,
Well,
especially
and like
you don't want to use it
THX,
too
you can be
loosely.
like,
Yeah.
whoa, was she like mad or something? Like, there's so
Yeah.
many weird like nuances of like
There
thanking
are
a
weird
person.
ones. In
Yeah.
fact, you know what just a little sidebar, you mentioned that. I have a worker who whenever I say thanks at the end of like he's doing, he's going to do a job for me, he goes YW. Like he writes YW in the text and I'm like, I don't know if that works. I don't know. Like I
Oh,
don't
you're
feel like
welcome. I was
YW.
like, I
Yeah.
had to think about that for a second. Like, yeah.
It's just it feels too I don't know if it works as well as THX. I don't know.
But you said thanks, and he's saying you're welcome.
But he's saying YW. I don't
I
know. It just
know. I think
anyway, long
he's
story
trying to be
short,
cool.
he's trying to be cool. So the thanks, you could be a little flip about it, maybe thanks very much. Sometimes I notice that I'll be like, oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. Like it comes from me because I am very grateful for whatever they did. And then I'm like telling myself, okay, calm down, dude. Like that's maybe a little over the top. It's like an email.
Yeah.
And then there's like the classic, like sincerely or like yours truly. I think sincerely to me
If
doesn't
someone
fit for
said
me because
yours
it
truly, I'd
feels,
be like, are you
you
Jimmy
know what you
Buffett
yeah,
from
like yours
Beyond?
truly to me is like a Bronte book, like a romantic letter sent between lovers, like or like fondly regards. All those feel really dated to me. I think sincerely does work with certain things. It's a bit like old school. I'm not a big best person. I think it works sometimes. I think yeah, people use it all the time. I don't mind it. I would almost want to. I
Yeah.
think if I were to choose Sarah Lane,
Mm.
I'd probably go with Cheers because I think it's just really friendly and I like a good pub.
There you
This
go.
might be the one for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think XO is a little too cutesy for email. I like the peace and love. I do. I am tempted to go that route because I just think it's so like it's kind of over the top, but like kind of awesome too, because that's what we all want, right?
Yeah.
Um,
If that's how you
but I don't
feel, I
know.
mean, you should
Yeah,
be
I
allowed
might go
to say
cheers.
that.
Yeah. Well, I want to know what you guys use, if you use anything, or if you have thoughts on this, please email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
It's funny that you bring this up, Heather, because just the other day, this is sort of like just, I don't know, every so often you kind of do a cleanse of like, what is my LinkedIn, what am I saying on my email signatures type thing. And mine
Yeah,
was always an about.me link. But
I remember that.
but half the
Hmm.
time when I would send something, like a response to somebody, I'd be like, they don't need to see that. So I was always like deleting it unless I thought it was somehow
Same.
helpful.
Yeah, I know what you
And so
mean.
it kind of
Because
like
it's
turned
weird out of
into this like
context.
annoying thing where I'm like, why am I
Hmm.
doing this? So
Yeah.
I just got rid of it recently.
Totally. Like, and it got tiring because when you make a signature and then you constantly deleting it because it doesn't apply to like one of your emails, it got like a little exhausting.
Yeah, where you're like, oh, they might not like get it in the right way. It's like, well, why am I sending it to anybody?
Yeah.
If like I have to like think each time like, is this going to be
Does this
taken the
apply?
wrong way kind of
Yeah,
thing? Like all it
exactly.
is like links to my other shit.
Yeah, totally. And then it
Yeah.
becomes redundant and maybe annoying because like
Yeah.
maybe you have this thread and then you have so many of those signatures. I think that becomes, especially when you have a logo that's embedded in your signature and then it's broken
Yeah.
like in all these threads. Anyway, I digress. But but yeah, let us know your thoughts. Always early and welcome and all the things.
And listen, we didn't talk about how much we love our Patreons as much as we should have in episode 204. It is 205, and you know what? Today's your day. Patrons, we love you so much. We could not do the show without you. Truly. We
Hell no.
mean that. If you would like to know more about how to directly support this show, please go to patreon.com/HSGD. Now, when I say that, what I mean is have such a good day. But I want you to remember that acronym.
That's
'Cause
our
it's kind of
acronym.
fun. Yeah,
We did that. You and me.
we did it.
Way back when.
Yep.
5 years ago.
Yep. We sure did. Heather, 5 years. It's been a fun ride. Not that we're
It's cool to look back.
Not that we're slowing down. We're still
Nope.
Sprite ladies.
Oh, we really are. In fact, I think Patreon, the platform, just introduced something where you can kind of shuffle content and like move, little chunks of content. So like maybe we could pull some old shows and bring them to the top and kind of reorganize some episodes because we have a lot of episodes now.
Ah.
And it might be fun to unearth, if you will, some old episodes where we talk about how much we love Target and other fun things.
I mean,
so
I could talk
stay
about
tuned.
how much I love Target right this second. But yes,
Same.
we have done this on previous eps, and they're fun. We've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun. All right. Well, at the risk of sounding like, I don't know, we're all going to bury ourselves, let's go ahead and wrap up this show. 205 in the can. This has been a delight. And thank you to everybody
Absolute delight.
who supports and follows us along. Get in the Discord if you can. We love to hear more about what y'all are doing. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you what we're chatting about because it's super secret. You have to join to find out. So we'll see you there tomorrow, next week.
Yeah.
Until then, I will be Heather forever.
And I will remain Sarah. Have such a good day.
Later.